All right, let's talk about the Mona Lisa. We all know that painting, right? That famous smile? But what if I told you the real reason she's a global celebrity has almost nothing to do with her smile and everything to do with a crime?
I mean, really think about it for a second. Why her? Of all the incredible masterpieces out there, how did this one portrait become the undisputed icon? Is it the art technique? That mysterious look? Well, the actual answer is way more dramatic than that.
Because here's the thing, for about 400 years, the Mona Lisa was, a respected painting. But she was far from a household name. Her journey to superstardom didn't start in a fancy art gallery. It started with a police report.
So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about that police report. This is the heart of the story, really. The theft that accidentally made a painting a global superstar. Okay, so picture this. It's August 21st, 1911. The world wakes up, and the Mona Lisa is just gone, vanished from the Louvre. For 2 whole years, she was basically the world's most famous missing person. It was a total media frenzy, headlines everywhere. And when she was finally found and brought back to Paris, it was a massive national celebration.
But here's the craziest part of this whole story. It was all a complete accident. The thief, this guy Vincenzo Peruggia, he was an Italian patriot who just wanted to bring a piece of Italian art back home. But his first choice was a totally different painting. The problem? It was huge and literally bolted to the wall. So he looked around, and there was the Mona Lisa. Small, portable, easy. She was just his plan B. Seriously, the most famous art heist in history was basically a crime of convenience.
And that crime of convenience? Well, it unintentionally launched what is probably the single greatest marketing campaign in the history of art.
And this right here is the psychological turning point. The theft gave the Mona Lisa a story. She wasn't just some portrait on a wall anymore. She was a victim. She was the star of a real-life global mystery. Suddenly, people who couldn't care less about Renaissance art were totally hooked. It's kind of amazing when you break it down. These 4 things happened completely by chance, and they created a legend. First, scarcity. The painting became priceless precisely because no one could have it. Second, buzz. The media storm made her face and even the empty space on the wall famous. Third, the narrative. The crime story made her interesting. And finally, her big return made her a national hero. It was literally the perfect storm for creating an icon. Now, what's really fascinating is that this accidental recipe for fame did not go unnoticed. In fact, it became the intentional blueprint for some of the world's most exclusive luxury brands. And this is the main takeaway of this whole explainer. That perfect storm, that mix of scarcity, buzz, and story that made the Mona Lisa famous by accident is now being meticulously engineered by companies to make us desperately want their products. I mean, just look at this parallel. It's striking, right? The Mona Lisa scarcity came from an unplanned theft. The Hermès Birkin bag scarcity comes from intentionally limited production. Back then, newspapers created the buzz. Today, it's social media and influencers. The story changes from a crime caper to one about elite craftsmanship. But the end result? It's exactly the same. The creation of a global icon that everybody wants.
There's actually a term for this. It's called artificial scarcity. And it is the engine that drives modern luxury. By purposefully making fewer things than there are people who want them, companies drive up not only the price, but the cultural value, the status, the pure desire for that item. And Hermès has this down to a science. You can't just walk into a store with a pile of cash and buy a Birkin bag. Nope. You have to play the game. You have to build up a purchase history, buy other things, create a relationship with a sales associate, and then, maybe, you'll be deemed worthy of being offered one. It turns buying a bag into a quest, and it makes owning one a symbol that you're insider. So this all leads to one last really important question. At the end of the day, does it even matter if the scarcity that makes something an icon happens by pure chance or by careful design? Well, when you really get down to it, the answer is no. The psychological trigger is exactly the same. That feeling of, I have to see the painting that vanished, is the same human impulse as, I have to own the bag I can't get. It all comes from the same place in our brains. We are just wired to want what's rare, what's exclusive, what's just out of our reach. And once you see this Mona Lisa effect, you start seeing it everywhere. Supreme dropping a limited collection that sells out in seconds? That's it. The way Steve Jobs used secrecy at Apple to build insane hype for new products? Same principle.
Today's whole sold-out culture on social media works the exact same way. If you can't have it, you just want it more.
So the next time you see a massive line for some limited edition sneakers, or you feel that pull towards something that's almost impossible to get, just remember that empty space on the wall of the Louvre from 1911. You might just be feeling a modern version of the heist that turned a painting into a masterpiece. Thanks for diving into this with me.